Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The Silverlight shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you tuning in today, we welcome you in. After yesterday's video, there's a very interesting question asked in the comments, and I don't think I did it the due justice that it deserved. The question was very simple. Michigan has a higher infected rate than Ontario has, so why isn't Michigan shutting down? And initially I kind of brushed it off, and that wasn't right of me. So I did a little research today, and I did a lot of figuring out, especially considering the United States has a population of 395 million, and 1 million had infections today. When you can start expressing the infection rate as a fraction, 1 in 400, that's a pretty significant amount for one single day. Now, one of the reasons why Michigan remains open and Canada does not is political attitude in the United States. The whole idea of the land of the free, home of the brave, the individualism is a lot higher than in Canada. Now, Canadians are not sheep. Cross us, we're going to cross you back. But at the same token, we're more civic-minded. Michigan also has an accident of geography that Canada has as a mirror. It's a logistical problem. Let me explain it this way. Canada has a population of about 1/10 of the United States. So while the United States has a population of 395 million, Canada's population is about 38 million, or 1/10. Of that 1/10 of a population, most of Canada's population sits in the Greater Toronto Area, going from basically Whitby down to Niagara Falls, all the way over to Kitchener, and say up to Barrie. And you're going to get about 7 to 10 million people, or nearly 1/3 of Canada's population, in that little box. Michigan, on the other hand, well, where do you even start? You got your Detroit, you got your Battle Creek, you got all sorts of places located all over the place. So whereas Canada can send in a team and get people vaccinated, give them the dose, give them screenings, whatever it takes, and they can concentrate a lot of their resources on one place. The state of Michigan alone cannot. They have to be sending multiple teams to multiple places to respond to all these different hotspots. Canada has a very limited infrastructure, mostly because we're a small country. So you figure you got Ottawa, which is basically a government city. You got Montreal, which is hugely built up. Quebec City. And then you kind of don't have to look at the East Coast. As much as the people out there are valuable and friendly and wonderful people, and I've lived out there, so yeah, the cities just aren't that big. I've walked across downtown Halifax, stopping for traffic lights, not rushing, in 15 minutes. You try that with Toronto or Hamilton or any other place, and it's just not going to happen. Vancouver, I don't know. I've only been in Vancouver for an hour in my whole life. It would be nice to visit it one day, but again, just not really a very big city, especially compared to your greater Toronto area, as I'm going to put it. Michigan, yeah, you got Detroit, and you got the suburbs of Detroit. You got your Battle Creeks and stuff like that. But there's so many little towns. Now, keep in mind, when I'm saying a little town in the United States, I'm probably meaning a mid-sized city in Canada. But just statistically, there's more people there. It's one of the reasons why people don't really like expanding to Canada, because you have to spend a lot of money to set up a lot of warehouses to distribute to all these points just to say you have a Canadian presence. And it's really as if you're expanding to another state. You know, that's, you only got enough revenue as if another 1/10 of your population is there. It's not worth it. That's why we're seeing a lot of chains not bothering to come up. Target was the last one to do it. And, well, I know a lot about the Target problem, and that was mostly self-inflicted. Their biggest problem was they didn't listen to the experts. The system they were using, the computer system, SAP, is a German-made product. It is very efficient, it is very good, but it requires it to be expertly configured. Once it knows the products, once it knows the people, it's very intuitive. Until it hits that point, you got to hold its hand. And when Target came up, they just thought it would be a point-and-click sales system. They pointed, they clicked, and they found out it needs some time to figure things out. Plus, their inventory mishaps, and it was just a general screw-up for them. Not saying Target was bad in expanding up here. They didn't listen. The Canadian market is different from the American market. And also, let's be honest, their stores were god ugly. I've been to Target in the States, and we had to get the worst paint possible. But back to the point, it's infrastructure. You can't go anywhere in this life without infrastructure. You need highways to carry people to where you are. Otherwise, they're not going to visit. Let's pretend for a second we are going to build a restaurant. Why a restaurant? Because a restaurant is something everybody is familiar with. I can tell you, we're going to keep it easy, hamburgers and french fries with soft drinks. That's it. Bargain basement. Well, it doesn't need to be bargain basement, but at the same token, it's something everybody can understand. You're going to be dropping burgers, you're going to be dropping french fries. Probably need 1 or 2 employees so you can cover all hours. Great. So what do you need to start with? Well, you need some sort of a highway, both to get your customers in and to get your product in. You don't have any product to sell, your customers aren't coming back. If you've watched any of Gordon Ramsay's shows, you know that for sure. If you don't have any product, the customers aren't going to vote for you. And that's really something people forget. A lot of places in Canada are not hooked up. Where is that on the prairies somewhere? It's that First Nations, I've referred to them before, that First Nations people that are having the oil pipeline built through their territory, and they're saying, hey, why don't you run an extra pipe and give us some fresh water? That's because they can't get fresh water in there. And you've got the ground open, you've got the trucks there. Throwing an extra pipe, I think that's a more than reasonable request from them. But that's just the opinion of Silverlight. But that's how bad the infrastructure is in some places in Canada. In the big major metropolises like Toronto, like your Vancouver, like your Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, and I gotta say their infrastructure is decent because some places use them instead of going to the United States. It's cheaper in some cases. But realistically, you need a highway to get in and out of anywhere. So if you trace the Trans-Canada Highway, you can pretty much trace most of Canada's population. That's why Canada has an advantage over the United States, and it can say, we're shutting down for this period, while in Michigan, they're not shutting down at all because they know it's not going to make a difference. They've got to hold on and hope the vaccines and the pills and the vitamins and all that sort of thing are going to hold through. Meanwhile, Canada's in a better place to action this event. In other words, send out I call them strike teams, but their first aid teams, get them into places, get tests done, put needles in arms, put pills in mouths, just isolate people, whatever you're going to do. Now again, in this lockdown that's not a lockdown, notice how they got rid of the coloring? We're no longer in blue, red, green, whatever the heck we are. We're back down to stage 2. Because they don't want to call it a lockdown, because then you qualify for benefits. It's just it's ridiculous. And for the people in Michigan, well, we know the American infrastructure is better, but what's the proper way to say? I don't want to say they don't care, because they absolutely do. It's just that it's not their priority. Their priority is defense spending. If Michigan had some sort of, well, Michigan does have the big three and a couple other industries, but they're not building battleships, they're not building tanks, they're not building aerospace equipment. In Canada, yes, we are more to the left. We do have more of a communal attitude than the United States. That's not to say that we're a bunch of insects all swarming towards the same objective, working in harmony. Hell no. We'll sue each other silly if we think there's something that we can gain. But the fact is, it's easier for Canada to really quickly bump up the numbers of how many people are vaccinated, how many people are immunized, whatever you want to say. It's easier because you basically hit 4 or 5 areas and you get your 80% real quick. What concerns me is that we've hit the magic 80% number we have for a while. We're still getting over 10,000 infections in Ontario per day. And we're up near 20,000. Let's hope that 19,000 is the record and it stays the record. But how can we have this so-called herd immunity and have so many people that are infected? Yes, I know there's a lot of people out there that refuse the boosters and stuff, and again, Silverlight respects those who get them, respects those who don't. My own status is my business, and I would expect the same would be true for you. But even allowing for an 80% vaccination rate, we should not be getting this high level of infections. And the Omicron is still not the dominant variant. I don't know. This feels like a rehash of last year without the necessity for it. I mean, we had the schools shut down, which I kind of saw that one coming a mile away. And they're now going to online distance learning, which is fantastic. But yeah, it's just, why was this all so last minute? I said it a couple times in this episode. The nice part about being in Canada and here where I'm broadcasting from the center of the universe, it's so easy to get help in here quickly. You got multiple roads, you got multiple railways, multiple airports, also multiple anything you want to get what you need here. But still, we're scrambling to use last year's techniques and technologies for this year. It's not right, it's not smart, it's just the way things are. But why? I still don't understand why. When we went into the Christmas break, they knew there was a problem. They could see the numbers were rising. The powers that be could have easily said, okay, the plan right now is to reopen, but be prepared to stay at home. Luckily, they gave computers out to all the kids last year because, you can. And they're set up with such a stupid architecture inside of them. Like, if I set the computer up in my home, it has to go request permission from my daughter's school before it can log into itself. I was going to terminate that because it's just silly. Why am I going to an outside device to ask permission for my own house? Fortunately, I didn't, because I was about to. I was ready to pull the plug on that thing. Just because it makes more sense to not do it. But I just kept saying, hold on. My prediction is this is coming back. And in September, when it didn't come when I said it was, I was like, damn. Well, I might as well pull the plug on this thing and make it work properly instead of this weird roundabout networked crap. Distributed networking is great, except when it actually comes at the cost of speed. But I held off on it. And now, tomorrow, everything's going to be hooked up and running the same way it was a year ago. There's parents complaining about this. There's a woman who complains that her 5-year-old is doesn't know how to use the system. Lady, every other 5-year-old who's going into a kindergarten also doesn't know how to use the system. Like, you're not unique, and the technology is pretty straightforward. And schools are willing to give computers out, and they're willing to help you out. But people don't want to listen to anything other than what's in their little world. So to sum up, Michigan isn't shutting down because they're quite frankly a much bigger area than Canada has to work with, and they have to do a lot more with it. Canada has a territorial advantage in that our population is pretty much region locked to a small area around the border. And this stuff should have been taken care of long ago. The first second that the rates went up, we've been through this before. We've done it before. There's nothing new under the sun. And I'm afraid there still isn't. But we're still treating this like it's some sort of mass paranoia epidemic. Nope. Hopefully, this is the last that we hear about it. But let me tell you, Silverlight is watching world news. Not just what we're told here, because that's how I knew about the Omicron variant before anybody else. I'm still looking downfield saying, hey, might be another one coming. We'll see. Hope not. Hope we can start talking about other things this year, but right now, the Silverlight Show is kind of a record of what happened between 2000 and 2022. The topics of the day, the interest of the day, whatever you might be interested in. So we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Silverlight Show. If you did, please hit like, share, subscribe, buy the merchandise, which are the books contained in the link below, and we hope you have a fantastic day.